Well, hello again. So when we stopped the last show about middle games, let me just quickly transition here. Click. There we go. So when we stopped our last session of the middle games, I left you with a little bit of homework and myself as well, of course, because we were faced with the following position and we needed to say who was better and why. Now, my initial thoughts were that white was better because of him having control over the d file. But it turns out, the problem that we found, the more I played, variations for white, I couldn't find a way for white to stop this idea, really. Which looks really, really strong for black. Once the bishop gets to sit on d4, I don't see anything good for white. So I had to change my assessment. I had to realize that black is probably the player that is better here. He doesn't have control of the d file right now, but that can change fairly quickly. And of course, the idea of bishop f8 to d4 is very strong for black. So black's bishop here will be a lot stronger than white's bishop, which still needs to find a long way around to get anywhere with pieces in his own way. This pawn still needs to move, etc. as well. So it takes him a millennium to get what I thought would have been quite a nice position. So, after looking at it again, we have to look at and decide that black is better here. So now if we again look at the moves that we looked at, I looked at this, I looked at bishop d7, which seems logical, and then I played rook e7. Now the thing is that obviously getting the bishop to d4 is not the only thing. Okay, so if we look at a variation like this, what did I say here? What did I look at here? Oh, I didn't go further than this, yeah. So after rook e7, there's just nothing there. Now, of course, he kind of has to move his rook again. So moves like rook d6 doesn't look very attractive because it can be attacked. And of course, we can just play something like rook b7 to d7 as well to take control over the d file. So I find it hard to play for white here. That becomes the problem here. So in this variation, let's say you move your rook, let's say to d2, like here, then queen e6 looks like a nice little idea as well. Just moving the queen to e6, getting out of the way there, and then of course just taking over the d file will now next be the goal here. So I just, like I say, I couldn't find anything good for white. But if we look at black now, black on the other hand has obviously the idea of getting his bishop to d4 and then maybe playing something like f6. Maybe he wants to open up the f file then and put his rooks on the f file. You can get the d file. But if we can get a rook onto the second rank plus the bishop on d4 with this maneuver, then the white king starts looking extremely weak. This is another thing that I looked at. I figured that the white king's position looks okay purely because black was not able to get any pieces in there. But it turns out, let me just grab my chat quickly. It turns out, of course, that black's pieces do get there not with too much effort. Let me just see what's going on here. Nothing interesting. Somebody made a move. Boo-hoo. B takes c3. What colors are there? Blah, 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 blah. Lots of stuff. Okay, open up my Twitch. I see they changed the Twitch app now again. They're always changing things. So they changed it now, but okay, it's not that bad, I guess. I click here now, I think. So now I gotta go find things again, like, how do I get up to this? How do I get to that? Because they changed everything now. Okay, I think I'm back in the chat now. Let's see. There we go. Back in the chat. Okay, so again, I find it hard to just see what white's going to do about any of this. So after queen e6, we maybe could have even played queen... No, I like queen e6, I think. Because, of course, now the queen does keep an eye on f7 and also that pawn over there. And it helps f6 push. And, of course, it also gets... now the rooks are free to move. So we might not even need to. Okay. If we play queen e6 right away, then maybe you can play rook d6 now, huh? So I guess queen e6 right now is not possible. Can we? What should we play? What to play? What to play? Just trying to find the right way in here. Maybe we can play rook b7 straight away. Because if rook d8, then queen. Okay, I guess we still can't put our queen here, which is a nuisance, isn't it? So you're going to have to just find the right way for black to play. Sorry, just go back. d7, rook e7, rook goes back. We're going to have to find the right way for black to play to get his pieces in the right places. That is what it's all about. Get the pieces in the right places. Now, like I said, white does have a decent control over this file, which does make things a little bit harder for us. Just trying to see what's the quickest way for us to break through here. But this is not so easy. So what does black play now? That is the question. What does black play now? Just have a look at something real quick. Oh, so much to do, so little time. Luckily, oh, what's that? Okay, no, that's wrong. Luckily, I can do things without you people saying anything. Ha ha ha. Okay, let's quickly see. Okay, so bishop f8 was played. Oh, apparently it's black's move. Now, you see, now that changes a lot as well. Wasn't even white to play. But they don't say that, though. Of course they don't say that, because of course they want you to first decide who you think is better. So, what we have to do now is it's black to play. Oh boy. I don't particularly want to change the position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. Then that. Then that. Then that. Then that. Then that. Then that. There we go. Little triangulation. Black to play. So black plays his bishop to f8 first. That makes a big difference. Okay. So of course if it's black to move first, then it makes a huge difference. Okay, so first we have to neutralize the d file, of course. Okay. So now he plays rook h to d1. See, this is a bit different now. Now bishop goes here, and now if rook d7, rook e7. Makes complete sense. Okay, now the bishop is not stuck on f8, so this changes a lot for us. He didn't play that. He played queen e2, so new main line. Let's just go a little bit forward. Okay, bishop d4, of course, king b1. And then c5. Okay, so now, of course, the bishop is finally on d1. Okay, so from here, the rest shouldn't be very hard. Our idea was to break with f6. So now we obviously just going to pile up some pieces onto the f file, break with f6, and the rest is history. This shouldn't be very hard to do. So we'll just see, let's have a look at what happened in the game, just so we can see. So rook f3 was played, queen d8, attacking the pawn. h4 is played, queen e7, so as you can see he's just bringing all of them around. So rook g1 gets played, rook f8 gets played, bishop d3 gets played, king h7 getting out of any trouble there, rook f to g5 trying to obviously prevent f6 from happening, rook d6 gets played, rook 1 to g2, and finally plays f6. Okay. So I assume that if you do take, of course, then we do have the option of either rook takes, which will just defend the g6 square. Okay, so they obviously just said that white is not able to stop the f pawn from advancing. Okay, so g takes f6, and I assume that he played rook f. Yeah, rook f takes f6 makes very much sense right now. Okay, and then of course basically now we just have to pile up again, you know, so pile up. pile up on the F file and attack. So he played rook g5, queen f7, bishop c2. White is pretty much just a sitting duck. Rook f4, and this is, by the way, why he played this rook when he took, is now this rook can move while this rook is still defending g6. So he's, now the rook would have been behind. Now the rook can get in front and still get the other rook behind on f6. So this way around instead of having a rook over there. So just so you understand why rook f takes f6 was a very good move. After rook d, okay, so rook f4, rook h2, rook d to f6, and rook g to g2. Okay, so he's trying to protect with everything he's got. 4 pawns, but I mean, surely, okay, he only has 1, 2, 3 defenders, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers. So we have more, and the opposite bishop endgame will not be a problem because we should win that pawn and that pawn, which should be fairly easy then. And that's it. Is there anything else here? Nope. So he took with the bishop, actually. So he decided to just take with the bishop. So the endgame would be an easy win as well. But, of course, with the bishop going back to d4 and this rook coming to f1, this king is starting to look extremely weak. So, opposite bishops favors the attacker. So here black is the attacker. So, of course, he is winning. Okay, so he played here, he played here. The rest of this is pretty much elementary. Rook f1. I mean, there's not much you can do about this. King c1. c2, I mean. Rook 6 to f. So now you can just see how the pieces enter all the nice squares, dark squares. He plays queen d2. Rook c3 check. King b1. Queen f3. So you can see how they all just enter. They just keep coming in here. Queen f3 and rook e2 was played. Okay, so now we've reached the position. Let's see what do we do next. Okay, now it does look like if we can get a queen, obviously to a1, it looks very, very devastating. So is there any way for us to do that really quickly? Tactics, tactics. This is where we are now. Rook d3 looks pretty strong. Does it not? I mean, don't you just lose the piece on d1? Okay, apparently, I mean, surely rook d3, or does he have a counter shot? Maybe he has some counter move? Trying to see why this is bad? I mean, this just wins a piece, does it not? Because the bishop still can't take. This bishop still can't take here ever. This is pinned. So I don't know why that is a problem. But anyway, he played rook takes b3, which apparently also just kills. After pawn takes. So he gets a queen to c3, like I thought we should try and do. So I assume after takes, queen c3. Is there any way to stop everything here? Maybe that is not what he does. So after takes, what do we play first? Oh, maybe we can play a2 check immediately. With the rook takes check here. Or queen takes b3, I guess, huh? Keep on trying to find all these tricky moves, and meanwhile there's just, kill. Queen takes b3 check because the piece is pinned. Yeah. Queen takes b3, king c1, and bishop b2 looks just killer, doesn't it? Yeah. That is just done. Because the pieces can't move. If he plays here, then check. It'll be mate with a pawn. Queen takes, check, king, and mate. If he plays queen takes, of course, then we can just mate. So, okay, so, obviously at the start we weren't quite sure who it was. We didn't know who it was to move. And my original assessment, like I said, was a little bit wrong. I thought that white would be better here because of his control of the d file. But in every step where I was trying to play for white, I was struggling to avoid getting this bishop to d4, which would then definitely be better for black. And now I find out that it's black's move, so in this position, okay, I just had to get to black's move, there we go, with black to play, and he plays bishop f8, and now he gets his bishop to d4, and there's nothing that white can do about it. And once that bishop gets to d4, the rest is just open up the f-file, pile everything on the f-file, and just enter into the game. Okay, let me just save that one. Go. Okay, let's start our new position. Okay, so they ask us the question and they say that black wants to attack, and then they ask us, what is the evaluation you have after the following moves? f5, queen takes a8, queen here, knight there, I mean, queen takes and queen takes. So they ask you to evaluate this position and decide who is better. So again, we have to start looking at a bunch of different things, don't we? We have to look at pawn structure, we have to look at, obviously we have a material imbalance here. White's got two rooks, and black has got the queen. White has the bishop here. Okay, so let's start right from the beginning. In this position, it's white to play. We have to assume that white cannot castle immediately? Or does he have to? Because this pawn looks like it will croak. This one looks like it's going to die because of knight there. And then the pawn is lost. So, like we usually say, let's look at the position, we look at material. So we looked at material and we realized that white has got two rooks against the queen. Now, it does look like the c4 pawn is very, very weak. But, in return, we can also say that the pawn on e6 could be quite a bit of a weakness as well. Okay, so just from a material point of view, two rooks versus a queen. Next up on our list is there any immediate threats? So I would say yes, because knight a5 is an immediate threat as well. So there is an immediate threat that white might have to deal with. Maybe he must just give it up. This is also definitely possible. He might just have to give it up. Okay. Next is our king safety. Okay, so if white castles, then his king safety looks okay. Black's king safety looks iffy because, again, like I say, if this e-pawn has to fall, when these bishops are quite strong, especially if we can get a rook. Like, let's say we get a rook to e5 and another rook to e5, etc., etc. So I'm not sure if I like that position that much. Okay. Then we look at pawn structure. Okay, so if we look at the pawn structure, we can see that black's pawn structure looks slightly better right now, just because he has two islands, pawn islands versus the three pawn islands. Okay, but we have to note that the pawn on e6 is backwards, so if we can double up on the e-file, that pawn looks like it's going to croak very quickly. So that's true. Okay. And, okay, then we can look at outposts and stuff like that. There's no real good outpost for the black knight. Okay. This bishop is on a really, really nice diagonal here, along the king. This bishop is not fantastic, but okay, we'll get there. Okay, so from a pawn structure point of view, I would say black immediately is better, but could become worse as well if he's not careful. Okay, now we look at, okay, from a pawn structure point of view, we looked at all that. Now we also looked at the semi-open file for white here, so if white can pile up on that file, it'll look pretty good for him. Yeah, so if we have to weigh up everything, okay, let's just look at the pieces themselves as well. The queen versus the two rooks. After castling, the two rooks will be connected, and they will be supporting each other, and they will be going onto the e-file. So they are strong. This queen, the black queen, needs to find a way into the game. Now, after knight a4, maybe queen c4 looks like a strong idea. Queen a4 looks like a very good idea as well, which would be then attacking the bishop as well. So maybe not too bad. Maybe not too bad. So maybe getting the queen on a4 is quite a bit of a nuisance. But we might have the time for for white to get his bishop around. So maybe if your queen gets to c4, we can maybe get our bishop around to getting here. Interesting. So the question now, if we looked at all of this, it looks like it was quite a topsy-turvy uh, assessment of the position. Who do we think is better? My initial thought here was that black is better, but I am starting to feel that white is better. The bishop pair is strong, the e6 pawn is very weak, and if the two rooks start coordinating really well, then I do not like white's position. However, now we could always leave our queen there and play king f7, and we can always trade off the two rooks for the queen. So, it depends also. Oh, we know whose move it is. It's white's move. Yes, it's white's move. Phew, okay, what a kicker. Not quite sure what to do in this one. Just want to see something real quick. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of blah, blah, blahs going on here. Okay, cool. Now, okay, I mean, again, this knight a5, take on c4, queen a4 ideas, for me, does look good for black. So I think the assessment goes as follows. Short term, I like black. Long term, I think white can fight back. So black's going to have to make do or make use of his short-term advantages, which of course is the activity of his pieces, the queen that is against the two rooks. So let's see how we would unfold, okay? Okay, so we came up to this position. Okay, look, white will have to castle, and then knight a5. Okay, so this is the variation I was slightly stressed out about for white. So immediately we are threatening to win a pawn. Okay. Okay, so let's play rook here. I don't know if I want to put the other rook there, maybe. I'm not quite sure which rook should go to e1. I mean, it makes sense to put a rook on e1, but I'm not sure which one. You see, I still like this move now for black. Queen a4 looks very, very, very tempting. Very, very tempting. Of course, we do have the obvious move of just bishop takes, because in this variation, after takes, we're going to have a very nice knight versus a crappy bishop. This bishop's going to have to go to c1. It looks very, very terrible. So we have the good knight versus the bad bishop. So that makes logical sense, but I still prefer the move queen a4. It just looks a little bit more aggressive. Quite possibly the better move here. Not sure. Not quite sure. But I do think it'll be the same idea. We're going to take on c4 with the bishop, and, you know, our queen is just going to be slightly better placed, maybe, or maybe not. Because now maybe this pawn is hanging. Not that it might be of any consequence to us, because there are some mate threats as well. Of course, this is hanging now, so he has to deal with that. So let's say he plays something like bishop b4 to attack. Okay. Then bishop takes c4. Of course, now he can't play here first because of takes, and then the rook is trapped. So that doesn't work, so he'll have to take. And after knight takes, now a5 is a threat if he's not careful. So knight takes. Now, okay, let's say he plays rook takes e6 is what I was looking at. a5, yeah. Bishop e7 is the only move left now. Knight d2. Attacking the rook. Just thinking about the back rank here. Back rank's a bit of a problem for him. He has to be very careful. We can maybe put the knight. Maybe we can put the knight on e4 as well. And then we have the threat of king f7. Okay, so he plays rook ft1. Play knight e4. Looks good because we have this threat of king f7. I plays f3, but then queen takes a2. Oh, okay, yeah. No, that's bad. So that is a big threat as well. So queen takes a2 is a huge threat as well. So after knight e4, it doesn't look like there's any proper moves for him. I guess queen a2 is the big threat. Sorry, king f7, then he can just move rook e5. But king f2 is I mean, queen takes a2 is a massive threat here. Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. I don't think he can. I don't think he can hold. Can he maybe play bishop here? Is this possible? That is possible. And okay. After queen takes a2, I don't know where the rook's gonna go. Here, okay, fine. King goes here. Rook goes here. King goes here. I guess now we have to be careful because f3 is now a problem for us. Fair enough. f3 is an issue because of the obvious checks everywhere. Now we can play knight f6 maybe. I don't know if I like this. I think we have gone astray. So bishop, what is wrong with bishop h4? What is up with bishop h4? Seems like he should survive. I mean, g5 looks a little romantic. Okay, maybe g5 is okay, because if we play g5 and he plays bishop g3, then there's no more here. No more move for him here. So now we play queen takes a2. Rook. Okay, he can sacrifice his rook, I guess. So maybe he can start taking these pawns. Sorry. Take the pawns on here, maybe. Maybe he's okay. I'm not quite convinced about this, I guess. So let's look at, what the obvious is, and that is just to take on c4. And after takes, let's see what happened in the position. Played bishop c1. Okay, so maybe this is just slightly easier for black to play. Okay. See, this is why I didn't... Okay, I understand now why he moved rook a to e1, because otherwise the rook would have been trapped over there. But now, in this position, this rook is trapped over here, of course. So we have threats of this the whole time. So, do we want to open up the game is a good question. It does seem to make sense to open up the game. And of course, this pawn has a really nice grip on e5. So if we can get rid of it, then we can play e5. So c5 makes a lot of sense. Pawn takes c5, b takes c5, bishop f4. Okay, so he doesn't want us to play e5, but can't we play it anyway? No, don't think so. No, because he can just play f4 after that. So something like e5, bishop takes, knight takes, and f4. And then we have to start being careful of this this endgame with the two rooks versus the queen. He might be able to hold everything together. Okay, so no, that doesn't look great. Now this bishop is annoying. So maybe we want to get rid of this bishop. Now h6 does create a problem for him because we're threatening g5. It also gives our king a nice little escape square on h7. So h6 might be a good idea. Rook e2, because he has to double his rooks. complete sense for him. Play g5, and now I guess he'll play bishop e5 because he doesn't want to. He can't go back, and he doesn't want to obviously allow us to play e5. So he doesn't want to go back to c1 either. Okay, maybe now's a good time to stop again. So let's stop again and take stock of what has happened and how the position has changed. Okay, so first things first, let's look at material. We have a pawn and a queen against two rooks. Good. So that's equal, but weird. Then we have to look at any immediate threats. Now, there is no immediate threats as of yet. We have to be careful of the rook e1, the doubling of the rooks and the bishop moving away, because then our e-pawn will be in loads of trouble. So that's not great. It's not anything great to look forward to there. But, okay, so let's move on. Let's see. Then we look at king safety. Okay, I mean, both kings look pretty safe right now. Maybe black's king is a little bit worse because he does have some space around his king, but should be okay. Then we have to look at the pawn structure again. Okay, so the pawns on the queen side is the same. King side pawns, we have the extra pawn, but it's blockaded right now. If we could push the pawn, it would be nice. Life would make sense if we could push the e-pawn. So we kind of need to get that going, don't we? Yo, I'm still tired. Don't know why. It's been an early morning for me. Been out and about, doing all kinds of things. Okay, pawn structure wise, okay, that was the pawn structure, but now the other factor to the pawn structure is the open files. Okay, so white has this semi-open file that he's trying to put his rooks on. Okay, we also have open files available to us. There is 2 open files available, so it might be that we want to start getting our queen somewhere. Anywhere, for crying out loud. Anywhere would be good, okay? The d file looks like a tempting option. Then diagonals, okay, this is obviously a good square for the bishop to be right now, but we can get rid of it if we need to. Not that I think that endgame is better for us. The queen versus the 2 rooks should be okay for white. So it's going to be this knight versus this bishop is the important part of this endgame. Because earlier we did say that we were going to have the good knight versus bad bishop. So we just need to make sure that we try and trade off rather queen for 2 rooks than the knight for the bishop. Okay, outpost. The knight's on a good square. I like where the knight is already. It does keep a lot of control of the dark squared bishop. As you can see, all these squares are being attacked, and the bishop cannot attack the knight, of course. It's very important to note. The knight can also not be attacked currently because of f5, so the knight is quite happy on c4. So the only piece we need to improve is our queen. Now, weak squares or good squares for the queen looks like that. That would be a good square. Quite a few good squares for the queen, actually. Okay, and then of course, yeah, so the pieces themselves. So white's about to play this, which will definitely improve his position, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't want him to improve his position, but I guess there's not much we can do about it, huh? Now, I will say that we might want to focus also on the fact that this bishop is trapped right now, except it can go there. So, a basic move would be something like this, taking over the d file and keeping control over the c7 square. I just realized that I might have... No, it's okay. I almost thought for a second there that I muted my mic, because I do that earlier, and I thought maybe I didn't turn it on. That would be a bit of a mess up. Okay, so, so queen d8. I like queen d8. Obviously just getting onto the open file. And the other obvious thing is that it keeps control over the dark squares that the bishop might want to go to. So now this bishop is completely trapped. Can't go to g5, g3 because of f4. So interesting to note that this bishop is trapped right now. Okay. So now, but how do we, what does white play? I mean, white plays the obvious rook here, and then we play king f7. I like king f7 because, I want to protect that pawn a little bit as well. just in case of emergency. Again, I don't mind losing that for that and that. It's not an issue, because then I have the good knight versus the bad bishop. And my king is also obviously already centralized as well, so it would definitely be much better for black. So after king f7, I mean, what does white play now? This is now the problem. What does white play? Okay, so he needs to give his bishop an escape square. So let's say he plays h3. So the bishop can go sit on h2. Not that the bishop is very good there, because again, if we trade off this for this, then if the bishop is sitting on h2, it's not going to be very happy times for him. Okay, so now it is black to play. Now again, I feel like we should be focusing on the fact that this bishop is trapped here. Sorry, I'll just take that away. Bishop is trapped right now, so it gives itself an escape square with that. So what if we play something like f4? I don't think that g3 is a stress, because f3 is a problem for him then. Yes, f3 is actually a very big problem for him, so he can't just, go nutty. It's not going to work very well for him, is it? Okay. So f4 looks very strong. Systematically, we are putting pressure on him. I mean, what does white play? I find it very hard to decide what to play for white. Okay, let's say he does nothing. Let's say king h2. I don't know. Just move the king or whatever, and we see what goes. Okay, black does the same maybe? I mean, what does black does the same? Okay, a6. We're like, okay, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? Okay, rook e4 is an option maybe, attacking the knight, finally. Finally getting something. But, of course, queen d5 I liked, because we're putting pressure on this bishop. We're protecting our pawn, and, of course, we're protecting the knight. Because the knight's very strong. We don't want to get rid of that knight. That knight is a happy knight. That is a happy knight, people. A happy knight. Okay, now we have ideas also of possibly playing f3 because of knight d2 afterwards. So this is something we can start looking at, because now maybe the king starts looking a bit awkward. And it all stems from this bishop being so bad. It's a really nicely placed bishop, but the bishop isn't doing anything, and the bishop is also trapped. So, the rooks are constantly having to focus on defending that bishop. I mean, again, what does white play? I can't see anything for white. Let's say white tries to bust out. h4 looks like an attempt to bust out. How about that? Can we play f3 immediately, or can we just maybe play knight d2 immediately? And after rook e2, f3. Looks yummy. Deliciously yummy, I say. Looks deliciously yummy. Yeah, if he plays rook e2 now, I mean, doesn't he just croak? Rook e2, f3. This is going horribly wrong for him now. Horribly wrong. Rook e3, pawn takes. Threatening rook f1 check. F3 check. Knight f3. Wow, again, me and my notation. I'm thinking so far ahead that, I'm making moves like, oh, rook takes f3 already. You know what I mean? I'm sacrificing the rook already, so I'm going rook takes f3, rook to f3, rook to f3. But it's black's move, and black doesn't have a rook. Okay, so, yeah, so now the threats are that, I mean, this is just trouble. He's in big trouble. He's going to have to lose material now, and, that'll be the game. So yeah, I don't see anything great here for any great prospects for white here, because of that beautiful bishop, beautiful knight versus the bishop. So that is what I would suggest is my assessment here. I don't think that queen takes a8 is a very good move. He probably should just move his queen back. I'm not quite sure where, but he's probably better off not taking the rook, because I think this endgame is just losing. After knight a5, with the idea of getting the knight to c4 in the end against this dark squared bishop, black must be better. I don't know if white could maybe have played better. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. So I think that is what I would do if I was black. That is basically the ideas that I would play for black. Now, again, this was an exercise. It is the last exercise of chapter 4. So let's quickly open up the book here and then just have a quick look at what chapter is next. Skip a little, just get to where I'm supposed to be. Chapter 5. Okay, chapter 5 is about weakened king position. So obviously we're moving down, we looked at pawn structure. So we continuously look at the pawn structure when we assess a position. And now we are going to look at weakened king positions as well. So the king in the center, obviously the king on different wings, etc., etc. Seems like we will start with the king in the center, which will just probably end up being a tactic of some sort, which should be a popular one, which probably has been seen before, but just shows the idea of if the king is in the middle of the board, you want to smash it open. Okay guys, I will be back in about 50 minutes or so to do the tactics session. So I'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for joining, and yeah.